You're listening to the world's #1 football podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Ben Hansen, Matt Hartman, and Ryan Matthews.
I'm Matt Hartman from the Pigskin Project, and welcome to the YouTube. Today we're going to be doing exactly what we did yesterday, except this time it's going to be the NFC. We had 16 hard-hitting AFC questions yesterday, and now we have 16 NFC questions. Every single team, all covered. If you missed a team, then you can go back. There's a playlist down below in the description of every single preview for every single team in the league that we did live on this YouTube channel every Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 Central. We love interacting with the chat, so if you guys are in there, if you want to see how the sausage is made over here on the YouTube videos, go over there and check it out. That'd be awesome. We'd love to and appreciate it. But overall, I hope you enjoyed the video and make sure to stick around because NFL is almost here, so that means the Pigskin Project is just kicking off. The season is just kicking off, so let's have a great season and enjoy the video. It's just like yesterday. These questions have come out all throughout June, throughout, July, and even some leaking into August. So this is well before some training camps kicked off, well before preseason games ever kicked off. So if you're thinking like, oh, what are they talking about? It's because this has been going on for multiple months. But still, regardless, enjoy, drop a like, subscribe if you enjoy. We'd love and appreciate it. Thank you. Question for them is, how do the 2025 Seahawks shape the next 5 years of Seahawk football? And what I mean by that is their offseason was really silly. They traded away two competent players at premium positions in Geno Smith and DK Metcalf to get worse and to add draft capital. Usually when you do that, you aren't signing Sam Darnold, Cooper Kupp, and DeMarcus Lawrence for pretty good market value contracts for those players. All aging and diminishing players. But it makes me ask the question with them. Do they want to be good? Do they want to thread this tightest of needles? Do they think Sam Darnold's going to win them 12 games, 12, 13, 14 games like he did in Minnesota? Or are they slow tracking a rebuild just to say, well, we turned every stone. We tried to get better at quarterback. We tried to get younger at quarterback, but it didn't work out. Now we can fast track a rebuild. But whatever it is, the 2025 Seahawks unlocks a door. Door one is Sam Darnold's good, and you pay him like Baker Mayfield is right now. And they continue to go down this road of, fine to above average quarterback play at market value contract, mid-tier contract. Door number two, they suck, they underachieve, and they punt on everybody. They sign this offseason, Cooper Kupp, DeMarcus Lawrence, Sam Darnold, and they restart and they rebuild. Something they have not done since before Pete Carroll was there. And then the last door is, what if there's a mystery door that involves Jalen Milroe or involves Sam Darnold being good, but keeping him on this current contract and not, re-signing him to a massive number. It's interesting. I'm interested in the Seattle Seahawks because I think we're going to look back in 5 years and say the 2025 Seattle Seahawks pushed them into a direction that they now have to kind of work around.
Yeah.
Go ahead and look at the schedule here.
Well, couple thoughts there on the Seahawks. First off, loved. I mean, you of all people can offer insight on this, but love the offensive coordinator change. You hope that Clint can come in and bring in kind of a new offense that can kind of help Sam. Second off, we love Gray Zabel. Gray Zabel is darling of the podcast, but that interior offensive line still kind of blows. And what was Sam Darnold's one big question throughout the entire season? You can get him flustered and make him see those quote unquote ghosts when you get that interior pressure. And then two more kind of side notes. If Josh Jacobs is starting outside corner, it's not going well for you. I can tell you he was on the Eagles. It's not. It wasn't fun. And then second off, I know you weren't a big Nick Emanwari guy, but does the placement of Nick Emanwari going to this specific team of all teams change that a little bit for you, Matt? Because I think this outside of the Ravens, this would have been the team I wanted him to go to because of McDonald. Because McDonald was kind of the person that turned Kyle into what Kyle was. and you hope that you
Yeah.
can do that with
Yep.
Nick. So does that change it?
It changes it enough that I think there's a plan for him. I still think he's rigid at this point to play overhang safety. I still project him as a box safety long term, but no, I think having a creative defensive mind for him was a valuable tool in the draft, and I think he got that.
We love it.
Let's go ahead and
Jalen Milroe, it's gonna be fun. But yeah,
oh yeah,
If
the
he's able to
play.
Pick that they traded Geno Smith for is the Jalen Milroe pick, so we could look at that in 5 years and be like, "That's fun," that's fun.
Yes.
Season outlook question with them. Ironically, it's not defensive because I think their defense, just by sheer amount of what they have spent, it is going to be better. They have spent, 3 premium draft picks. They spent major money in 3 major defensive lineman additions. They're going to be better, and that's not what my question. My question is, another year of offseason development, will that let this offense take another leap? Like, they were surprisingly top 10 last year, and they have all this in-house development to still, rely on. Marvin Harrison walking into last year was kind of crowned as a top 10 receiver, just in waiting. If he could break out in year 1, he'd be a top 10 receiver. And at best, he was the 4th best rookie behind Neighbors, Thomas Jr., and McConkey. And then Kyler Murray had another instance of fading after the bye week. They were 6-4 prior to the bye week. They were in EPA per play on offense. They were top 10, and drop back EPA per play, which is all dependent on the quarterback, was 6th. After the bye week, when they finished 2-5 and missed the playoffs at 8-9, they were 15th in EPA per play, and Kyler was specifically 17th in dropback EPA per play. So dropping nearly, 7, 8, 9 spots in offensive EPA per play, a very common efficiency metric at the back half of the season, it's the story of Kyler Murray. So that is what makes this interesting for me. If this offense can continue to take another leap forward and play for 18 weeks, they have so much talent. Like, I just want to list off some of the top 100 picks just in the last 3 years they have taken. Paris Johnson, their left tackle. Michael Wilson. Trey Benson. Tip Ryman. Isaiah Adams. All of these guys drafted specifically on the offensive side of the ball, drafted in the last 3 years. So, yeah, I think there's a world where this team takes another leap, and it's because of Kyler Murray, and it's because of the continuity, and it's because of the talent they've invested on that side of the ball.
Oh, that's that is a fun way to look at it, but I mean, you do hope that defense does take a step forward. I mean, you hire a guy like Gannon to hopefully figure out that defense, and I mean, he was at least able to get a good year out of Zaven Collins for the first time, switching him over from linebacker to edge, which I guess props to you. But they were able to get a guy like Josh Sweat. But on the offensive side of the ball, there, the thing that concerns me is weapons outside, like pass catching weapons. I mean, I like Michael Wilson, but Michael Wilson doesn't have a whole lot to show, given he's only going into his 3rd year at this point. But he had 548 yards last year. And then Greg Dortch, which seems to be everyone's fantasy darling as of recently, your wide receiver 3, like you're really trusting that, again, as you said, that those guys, maybe, again, Greg Dortch, you get a step up from like Hoko of all people takes that step forward or something. It'll just be interesting. Again, you're banking on that offensive development, because I think if you can do that, you can hopefully get above that, ranked 10th EPA. But for them to be ranked 10 for EPA, I'm wondering how much of it is the actual talent versus it just being an outside, just like an outlier. Because again, the weapons aren't there. So you just hope Marv can kind of ascend into that wide receiver 1, and Greg Dortch and Michael Wilson can take that step forward. But at least you are building a good offensive line, or at least trying to build an offensive line. And, again, hopefully, Walter Nolan and Josh Sweat can make that impact on the defensive side of the football.
Season outlook question with this team. Their secondary. I talked about with the Packers on the opening of this live stream, but you get into the Rams secondary the same way. And ironically enough, like Jalen Ramsey is coming up on, by the time people seeing this on YouTube as a, posted video, maybe Jalen Ramsey is a Ram because I look at this secondary right now. Darius Williams, Ahkello Witherspoon we talked about got re-signed. Quentin Lake, Darian Kendrick is still around. Kobe Durant. Of course, Cam Curl was a hit in free agency last year, and Cam Kinchins was a hit in the draft, but they're safeties. So their overall secondary is very young and just it's lean. And it's interesting for a team to just, I don't want to say like neglect the position, but maybe it's just the value doesn't meet, but there were opportunities to get good players at the draft value in the second round, at the money value in free agency. They just decided, well, we like the guys we got, and this was a team that, top of this video, I just said, they were tied with the Titans and the Cardinals in EPA per play, and that was mostly because of their secondary, because like Braden Fisk and Jared Verse, their draft picks last year, were great up front. So it's interesting to just we'll just go with another year of development, but we'll see if that figures out. It'll be interesting because they traded out of the first round. Did they trade out of Malachi Starks, who could be a fantastic player with the Ravens? It'll be fun to look back on in future years.
All right.
I agree. I have, and I'll kind of explain it at the end, but that secondary concerns me, and for that defense to be ranked 10th, a lot of it had to be on the backs of that defensive line. And you just hope that young defensive line and Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, and Jared Verse continue to take that step up, because if they don't, you're in a world of hurt. And again, I'll kind of get into it at the end of my schedule prediction, but it's interesting.
Season outlook question. My question for the Niners is, are the Niners still in the upper class of the NFC? And I think this season will tell us, because for the last half decade, the NFC has been dominated by four teams: the Rams, the Eagles, the Packers, the Niners. Those three teams all made the playoffs. They're all ascending due to their quarterback, or one of them just won the Super Bowl. One of them we just talked about started really poorly and overcame it because they have great coaching staff and a great infrastructure and a really, really young defense. And the Niners. And I feel like anyone's talking point with the Niners in 2025 is, well, they missed their window because now you got to pay Brock Purdy. Now you got to pay an old Fred Warner. Now you got to pay an old George Kittle. I'm interested in this team because clearly the metrics are telling me, the offense is still good. Shanahan is still the coach. They clearly understood the problem and just like a massive defensive makeover, flooding 5 different rookies into this thing. And I was interested in this, so I went back and I looked. So the Niners with Saleh in 2019, they were 3rd in sacks per game. And then over the course of it, you can tell which seasons were good, period. Like in 2020, the year after the Super Bowl loss to Kansas City, the first one, 1.9 sacks per game, 20th in the league, missed the playoffs. 21, 3 sacks per game, 2nd, lost in the conference title. 22, 14th with 2.5 sacks per game, lost in the conference title. Of course, the year before last, 2.7 sacks per game, 11th in the league, lost the Super Bowl. And then last year, 2.2 sacks per game, which was 22nd, and 6-11 missed the playoffs. So ironically enough, this comes down to this team wants to get pressure, and Robert Saleh said, I need guys to get pressure with. So go get me a ton of defensive guys in the draft, and we'll rebuild this, and I'll get us back to these numbers where, hey, maybe we're not first like we were in 2019, but we still have Nick Bosa, we still have Fred Warner. Those baselines, and even Lenore, their nickel, is really, really good. Malik Mustafa, before the injury, if he plays a 16, 17 game season, he's a plus starter. So can we just get the 26th in EPA per play to 18th, 17th? If we're push our luck, can we be in the top 14? Because we know the offense is going to be good. So I'm interested in this team because this is a real prove-it year with a lot of guys. And if they can't prove it this year because they're trying to compete, the Brock Purdy money kicks in. And then it's going to be very awkward paying Brock Purdy a lot of money, and your team is just slowly deteriorating and going down a downslope.
I agree. And this is coming from someone who does despise the Niners with a passion. Like, outside of the Cowboys, the Niners might be my least favorite team in all of the NFL. That being said, though, I think people blew what had happened the last season out of proportion. You guys will see that in my schedule prediction. It was just they were battered with bad luck with everything that had happened with them, with everything that had happened with CMC at the start of the season. Trent Williams only played 10 games for them. Ricky Pearsall was shot. They worked, they spent the entire offseason dealing with a disgruntled Brandon Ayuk, who then tore his ACL. And then I hate, it's sad, but then everything that had happened with Tre'Davious Ward and everything in his personal life, and they would have loved to retain him, but he couldn't stay because of everything that had happened with him. And for those who don't know, you can, go and find more detail. He had a child that had passed away. So it was just a season of very bad luck for them. And as you said, it's going to be interesting to see if it was truly just a season of bad luck with all of those things that I had just listed off of like 8 or 9 things, or if they actually are starting to be on that downturn as a franchise, at least right now in that rebuilding cycle. So it'll be interesting.
My season outlook question. WTF is your offensive expectation? The 2024 Giants were, again, I mentioned 28th in EPA per play. Their only starter change they made going into this season was the quarterback position, bringing in Russell Wilson, trading up for Jackson Dart, and signing Jameis Winston. 3 guys who probably aren't starters, right? Like, if they're your starters outside of, like, Dart, because you took him in the first round, I view him as a 4th-round prospect. So that's my opinion. I don't view any of these guys as long-term starters or solutions. You get into, like, their defense is going to, like, it's going to have to overplay its stay. Like, the amount of assets put into this defense, like, I have to go through it. I have to find it. It's just looking at their depth chart, man. The amount of guys that
you're Brian Burns, Thibodeau, Abdul Carter, Paulson Debo, Newman, Javon Holland. Can Deontay Banks have a bounce back
just think
year
about those guys
compared to what he was last year?
Outside of their, like, because they're going to run a 4-2-5 front, I imagine Carter and Burns are your edge rushers. They traded a second for Burns and gave him a massive contract. They're going to give Lawrence another massive contract because they have to. He's one of the best defensive tackles in the league. Bobby Okereke was one of their, like, he was an off-ball linebacker signing a few years ago. Tyler Newman is a 2nd-round pick. Deontay Banks is a 1st-round pick. Andrew Phillips is a 3rd-round pick. And Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland, I just mentioned, were 2 of the highest paid at their position this offseason. So I was looking at this, doing all the research, like, oh man, I kind of like their defense. Yeah, no crap. They have spent every major asset outside of the Malik Neighbors pick on defense. And even, like, throwing in the Jackson Dart pick, trading up for him. Those are the 2 guys that they've used, like, the 2 assets of capital they've really used on the offense. So you look like you had to say something.
Yeah, how much of that do you think is because they say we have faith in Brian Daboll to figure out whatever we're going to throw out on offense? And we said, we have faith. We hired you to take care of this because we think you are one of the best offensive minds in the league. Go take care of it. We're going to spend and I'm not saying that's a smart way to do it, but my guess would be is that is why. dumb as it is, because that offensive
Yeah.
line still scares the living bejeebus out of me. But
And it's year 4 of this. It's year 4.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
I think there's like a constitution of a little bit bad luck here. Like Drew Lock wins the game, has literally a perfect football game. I remember when the stats came out that like he was in comparison to like 2018 Mahomes with the performance he had against the Colts to win that game. And so they miss out on Cam Ward because of that. They miss out on Drake May because like I feel like they had a game a few years ago too to miss out on that. They have the weird Daniel Jones year where he wins a playoff game, so they have to sign him, tag Saquon to kind of get rid of Saquon.
That was always dumb, though. We all knew that was a dumb decision at the time, though.
And that's the thing is like that's how the quarterback is. Like, well, he won the playoff game, we got to stick with it. Kind of mentality. But back to the defense really quick, and then we can get into the schedule predictions. Their plan, right? As I mentioned, is, well, we're going to survive on good defense and kind of sacrifice the offense. That's basically what I see from this team, is like maybe we get Dart thrown in there a little bit later and he can figure it out. He runs he plays a few games like Penix did last year. That's kind of how I view him. Like, can he play 4 games and have some optimism and save Brian Dable's job? But the last time the Giants were a top 20 team on defense in terms of EPA per play, 2020. They were 16th.
No kidding.
Joe Judge was a head coach. Daniel Jones was in his second year. Saquon tore his ACL in Soldier Field. They won 6 games after starting 1-7, and that was the year the Eagles' Sunday Night Football fiasco happened, where they benched Jalen Hurts. And I was interested.
Yeah.
And then I was interested. Well, if that was 16th, when's the last time they were top 15? 2016. Eli Manning was a starting quarterback. They won 11 games. They were top 5 in EPA per play on defense that year. And then the boat picture happened. So it's like I was going down this rabbit hole of the Giants. Like, they have not been good at anything the last decade. So I'm really interested. The sacrificial lamb of the offense I don't love. And I had to steal a quote from Dodgeball, one of my favorite movies. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. All I can do is throw my hands up and go, this is what you built. All right, figure it out. But without further ado, I had 2 because, Super Bowl contender, sometimes I have 2 questions that I want answered from you. Number 1 was their edge, man. I hate their edge rushers. Like I said, they brought back Farrell, and they brought in Wise and Jacob Martin. And they let Dante Fowler walk, who was their most productive pass rusher last season, both in the regular season and the playoffs. And you're probably wondering, he's 30 years old. He probably signed a big contract. No, he signed with Dallas for 1 year, $6 million. It was easily attainable to re-sign your most productive edge rusher, and I get what they're doing. They're trying to moneyball this. They're trying to find 2 guys in an aggregate to kind of recreate. We could recreate Dante Fowler Jr., and it should be easy, right? Except, you're a Super Bowl contending team. You told us that you're pushing for the Super Bowl, and now you're trying to find the value plays in free agency. I think you should have just signed I would have overpaid for Fowler. Frankly, 2 years, 15, and we could get out of this next season if he declines in a major way. I would rather want to see him decline with their certain edge rusher, their edge rush room right now, than just let him walk and let him go. I thought that was iffy. And then the second one, you'll love this one. Can they survive possible Cliff Kingsbury offensive regression? Because the Cardinals in 2021 with Kingsbury, they won 11 games. They were 9th in EPA per play. 2022, they were 28th, and they were close to the top pick. That was the year going into the 2023 draft where they could have taken Will Anderson 3. So, there's always fear with offensive regression, especially teams who overachieve the way the Commanders did. These wild card teams who kind of sneak in, even though Washington didn't sneak in, sneak in and kind of just run through the table. You kind of overassess, and you're well, they're going to be clearly better next year because they traded for Laramie Tunsil and they traded for Debo Samuel, and they have Luke McCaffrey and Ben Sinnott, who they drafted last year, and they barely used those guys. Sometimes that happens, but those guys could produce too. But I have like these two devils on my shoulder where it's like, yeah, I kind of think a regression comes over, but maybe Jaden Daniels is too good to suck. Frankly, watching him, no matter the coach, I think his style of just the way he plays on rhythm as a passer, the way he is he supercomputers it sometimes. Like he just gets the ball on time, and it's really simple and quick and easy, and maybe that gets figured out and someone really like puts a stranglehold on that specific offense. But you can't really do that because of how dynamic he is in the open field as a runner. He has that Lamar ability where he just glides around guys, and he just like he had the joke before the draft was like, oh, he takes too many Looney Tunes hits, and then in the NFL, it felt like nobody could touch him. Like the Buccaneers play was a perfect example where the only thing the guy could grab was the flag or the towel, and it felt like flag football. Like I got him, I got the flag. No, you got to bring him down. But he might be too productive and too efficient to tank an offense because he is the offense. He is the engine that makes the Commanders go. So I'm interested in both of those things. If the edge rusher position really tanks them from winning a Super Bowl, do they make a move at the deadline? Because they were aggressive in acquiring Lattimore last year. We don't forget. And and Cliff's regression could possibly hit them. But are you looking up their picks?
Yeah, I'm doing that right now. So I don't know. The two so the one I agree with right now is so they have their first round in we have their first round, a third round, a fifth round, and a sixth round in this incoming draft.
Oh.
So they're out their second and their fourth, which is rough. I mean, I guess you could trade your third round pick for someone, but are you like, what value are you getting from an elite edge for a third round pick at that point?
Yeah,
I don't know. But the Cliff Kingsbury, as you had mentioned, was exactly where like my head went when I was thinking about this team. I am adamantly against Cliff Kingsbury because as fun as it is to watch the college offense, I mean, we had this conversation a couple nights ago. I mean, the Lane Kiffin air raid offense, stuff like that, love it. It is some of my favorite stuff to watch. But it is, once it is figured out and you know what you're doing, it's short gain. Okay, we're going to beat you deep. and that's what it is. Once you figure out how to stop it, you're done. But again, the question as you asked was, how good is JD to stop that? Like, is he good enough to say it doesn't matter because I'm the best quarterback?
Yeah.
But the other question I had is kind of the opposite, I guess, of the Giants that we had just discussed. I do not like their defense. There's a lot of question. Like, you're really getting manned by a Bobby Wagner who played way better than what anyone could have expected from him. Are you banking on that to happen again? And again, I wonder how much of it is, again, that opposite of the Giants where it's, let's invest into the offense. Okay, Dan Quinn, we know you're a defensive guy. Here are some pieces. Go ahead and try to figure it out. And the defense really, really scares me, especially if you start getting into shootouts or you let a team, let's say the Eagles in the playoffs, hang up 45 points on you. It's scary.
But my season question with the Cowboys is even losing Mike McCarthy, how much does this offense really change? Because it's the same concepts. It's very West Coast. It's very like Dak oriented. It's like Dak has a lot of control over this offense, and it's frankly because he's good at it. He's good at setting the protections. He's good at getting guys in the right spots, and he's good at playing on time. The only thing is that he was forced to play off of time last season because of the way the offensive line just straight up played last year. So overall, they finally bring in George Pickens, or an archetype like George Pickens, a guy who can get down the field and just ball win. Like, CeeDee Lamb is great at a lot of things. He does not win contested catch ways. Jalen Tolbert, that's a separation guy. He's 5'9". So yeah, finally getting a guy like George Pickens to get down the field and create explosives in a contested catch way, because I think Dak is really good at throwing the fade balls. Like, we've seen it with CeeDee Lamb. So do they really? Does Schottenheimer kind of go, all right, this is my show. We're going to run the concept Dak likes. We're going to run the concepts that work, and we're going to work to the strengths of our players. Hopefully they do, because I think this offense could be pretty dynamic, to be honest. I'm kind of higher on this offense in comparison to a lot of people. They didn't make a lot of moves, but I think the infrastructure already in place is very, very good to me. So I'm kind of yapping on. Do you have any thoughts on the Cowboys?
Yeah, well, I think so much of you being higher on it is where you have Dak compared to where the average person has Dak.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my season outlook kind of question, it was actually all dependent and all hinged on one player on the offense, and it's not Dak. It really is George Pickens. Because I'd went back and watched Dak Prescott, because a buddy of mine is big Cowboys fan. He's like, "What is Dak Prescott's biggest issue?" And I'm like, "Well, give me some time, and I'll let you know." And the big thing that annoyed me was there were way too many times where he locked onto CeeDee Lamb and said, "I am throwing the ball to CeeDee Lamb no matter what," and it was frustrating. But now when you add that second weapon in there, that opens up that offense so much more than what it was, that, like you said, if George Pickens is what you think he will. I mean, some people think he's like a top 15 wide receiver. I think that's outrageous, but that's besides the point. I mean, if he is what you think he will be when you trade the third-round pick for him, it will hopefully make that world of a difference that you see on, from this offense. And then maybe you get the Dak Prescott of, what was it, 2 years ago when he was the MVP caliber season?
Yeah.
So it's so much of it for me is that George Pickens, and then just the offensive line. The offensive line still really, there's still some questions about that. But
yeah, I think the only plus of the 2024 season to me was that Cooper Beebe was like a starting center, and like he's going to start at center for years to come, and like somehow, some way in year one, I'm like, can we extend him now? Like, he was that good for them last season. So to have him and Tyler Smith already kind of in that interior, and then you're lobbing in Tyler Booker. Yeah, I think that's a very stout interior that is going to keep pocket pushing to a minimum. And then I should also, before we get into... Yeah, you go.
Guyton was, I don't know, almost just outright bad last year.
Their tackles are.
Yeah, Guyton was really, really bad last year, and in Terrence Steele, that dude can't stop a bull rush to save his life. Like, anyone goes through power through. It's just he doesn't know how to drop an anchor. Like, I don't know. That's regardless. What were you gonna say?
The last thing before we get into the schedule prediction, Micah Parsons is going to get extended before the season starts. All right, don't flip out, Cowboys fans. Don't be nervous. Like, oh, we have trade rumors for Micah Parsons. He's going to get extended before the season. It always happens with Jerry. He did it last year with both Dak and CD. He didn't even try and do it. He did it a few years ago with Zeke when Zeke, famously was on the beach, kind of just like waiting it out. And it was like September 1st. And there he is. Like, he's getting signed Monday and he's back playing on, Sunday. So Micah, if if Micah puts the pressure on hard enough, I think he'll get the extension before the season starts and go from there. I think that needed to be announced a little bit. Also, like the defense, like I kind of like the defense. It's weird. Like if this team is full strength, like I know we didn't really go over the defense too much, but like their edge rotation in comparison to the other team we're going to talk about, I love it. And just fully
I don't know what
healthy,
you're
I think.
talking about.
I think Trayvon Diggs and Overshown, if they kind of join the season at a good part of the year.
Overshown's not playing this season, dude.
No, I'm holding out hope for Agent Zero.
I mean, I hope so. I love him. I mean, I went into last season saying like, hey, like watch out for him. He was one of my fucking wow language. Sorry, he was one of my guys. I mean, from a couple of years ago, I remember talking to you about him. But I don't know if he's gonna play. I mean, it was a gnarly. The disappointing was not really coming out of this draft with an edge that gets you super excited. I mean, we could jump into the edge. Were you planning on going over that? I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, that was gonna be that's my number one question by far.
There you go. I mean, for a team that literally won the Super Bowl because of their ability to only send 4 defensive linemen and being able to drop everyone back in coverage, this defensive line rotation, and as you said, more specifically the edge, it's concerning. I mean, you hope, I guess the hope is that Nolan continues to take that leap. I mean, we saw Nolan take a massive leap from year 1 to year 2.
That's part of my question.
Hope that he can make that.
Like, my question is, who other than Nolan Smith has a step-up season in the edge room? Like, because I think taking that into account, I did some numbers. So
I'll tell you.
His pressure per snap, and this is just a, like, pass rush snap by just overall pressure total. He was .112 in the regular season, which isn't great. That's, like, average player. Playoffs, .128. And then I got into regular season totals. So for guys who were kind of compared to that, because it sounded like there was a lot of Eagles lore about how good Nolan's postseason was. And I think what he did in the edge setting game specifically, the lore will be told. The pass rush is still getting there, and it still needs to get there now. Like, it needs to get there now, I should say. Because I got into regular season totals for 3 different players who kind of ascended into this like third year. Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito, Chase Young. Jonathan Cooper with the Broncos, .131 pressure per snap. Bonito, .14 flat. And then Chase Young, .137. So Nolan's numbers in the postseason don't equate either one of those guys yet. But then again, it's year 2, and they kind of just like brushed him along. And what he does in the run game is like vital because of the 2 edge rushers they brought in, Azeez Ojulari and Josh Uche. They need a guy to edge set, and he does it with an intention. I wonder if he's bigger. That's my like underlying kind of thought is like, what if he's just like, because what did he play? He's played sub 240, right? Both years. Like,
Yes.
What if he just walks in the door and he's like 248? You know what I'm saying? Like, just all of a sudden, it's like there's a real like, I'm gonna get a speed to power rush. I'm going to play the run like with a hammerhead intent, and there you go. There's your star. But I'm still kind of Nolan is interesting to me because I've seen Eagles fans, and I'm not trying to rag on the fan base, but it's like I've seen someone say like he's untouchable in a TJ Watt move, and I'm like, well, I don't think so. I probably would disagree with that because I think TJ Watt is just that freakazoid of a player, and Nolan Smith is still, again, a theory more than an actual product, you know?
Yeah.
So it's...
Yeah.
But yeah.
I agree. For this defensive line, and again, more specifically that edge group, it's going to involve a lot of squinting. Oh my goodness. It's going to involve a lot of squinting and being like, okay, we'll see. And I mean, I think the main reason that Eagles fans aren't as worried as what I think they probably should be, because I am worried. I mean, I'll be honest. But the main reason I think a majority of Eagles fans aren't worried is because of Jalix Hunt, which is like awesome, like cool. Jalix Hunt, once Bryce Huff got hurt and he took over a little bit more of the role, and Brendan Graham's snaps started reducing because he got hurt and all that stuff. Jalix Hunt started looking good. Sure. But are we really counting on the guy that got drafted out of Houston Christian University, who played safety for the majority of his college career, going back to Temple, and has only played the edge position for 2 years, to take that jump to becoming a starter, and not only an elite starter, a starter that is good enough to either be Josh Sweat, who just got his bag, or be Brandon Graham, who is one of the Philadelphia Eagles' biggest legends. It's absurd to me that they're just like, yes, Jalix Hunt is going to be that dude, and that's why we're not worried. I truly think that come trade deadline, if this team is where I think and hope they're going to be, they make a bit of a push to try to, get a guy. Hopefully it's not TJ. I know that sounds crazy, but he's old and it's going to cost a lot of money. And the Eagles don't really have that, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's in the maneuver of moving that amount of draft capital at the deadline. And again, we talked about it last week. Like, why would the Steelers do it, frankly? My season outlook question. Spending huge and getting Derek Brown back doesn't make the run defense better than historically bad that it was in 2024. So this was my favorite part of researching this division and why it's the Devils division. No team in NFL history has had a .097 rush EPA per play while having a 50% rushing success rate allowed against them. Not the 2008 Lions, not the 2017 Browns, not whatever historically bad run defense you can think of until the 2024 Carolina Panthers happened. They were literally the worst run defense in the history of the NFL. They spent top dollar on 3 big-bodied defensive linemen who play the run, can kind of rush the passer. They get Derek Brown back, who they've paid a ton of money. He got hurt in week 2, missed all of the season. That hurt a lot in the run game. And it has to be at least a little bit better than worst of all time, right? Like, speaking of the good vibes. So, yeah, is it enough to stretch wins in to the win column, or not so much? But I think optimism can only go up for them because of what Bryce Young did last season at the end of the year and getting Tedero McMillan. So,
absolutely. I mean, you hope that you pair him up with that offensive-minded head coach with Bryce Young, and that can continue to develop. I mean, we joked off the air that you could spend every single episode talking about the season outlook, talking about their quarterback.
Yeah.
and I do think a big part of it, I mean, I think you touched on the 2 big things. Can that run defense get better? And Bryce Young. But the one thing, too, that I would like to throw in here, what are they doing with the run? This team's obsessed with running backs. It's absurd. They have Chuba Hubbard. They went out and signed Rico. They drafted Trevor Etienne in the 4th round. And given he's not playing this season, they also have Jonathan Brooks. Like, I just think it's like a bit now. They're like, I
think they're punting on Brooks, personally.
Yeah.
Already?
I think so.
I mean, you spend that high of a second round.
I don't think Etienne is so good of a player that you have to have him in round 4. Because, like, I think it's more of a we got to get someone stylistically similar because he's A, not going to play this season, and B, it's just we can't wait around for this guy. We can't. But I agree with you there. The running back.
What I'm hearing is Jerry Jones was correct. Anyways, the big winner of all of this is Jerry Jones. Actually,
that's what everybody is saying.
Yeah, if you know, you know, right? But I don't know, Ryan. Any season outlook questions for the Panthers? You just want to dig into it?
I just want to dig into it, man.
What's your reason for optimism? Other than vibes.
Ted.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Bryce needed more help. And I don't. I'm just excited, man. I don't know. Like the guy was able to put. Let me be excited about a team, man. I don't know. It's not mine.
You hope Tat has an impact. Leggett looked fine, but you hope Leggett makes that jump even more. And if Tat has the impact, Leggett can make that jump, and Chuba Hubbard can stay the same. Then Bryce Young has to look better than what he did. And if you can do that, then I get why you have the optimism, paired with the good vibes. I'll say that.
My dad has a giant collection of Xavier Leggett rookie cards, and it's like, you know how cool it would be if that guy like just completely exploded so that collection could be worth something? Because like
that would be bad vibes.
I don't want him to explode.
You don't want him to explode.
No.
I hope he breaks out as a wide receiver in the NFL. Season outlook question pretty easily. Does the third OC in 3 years give them a downtick in production or continue to be playoff team productive? Josh Grizzard, the new offensive coordinator, 0 play calling experience. Canales put together a top 10 offense. He leaves to become a head coach. Liam Cohn puts together a top 5 offense, leaves to be a head coach. Grizzard doesn't seem to have the pedigree to follow in those steps after 1 year, but with the offense, is it too good and constructed too well to fail, no matter who the caller is? And I think that's what they're trying to achieve. They're just trying to keep that thing go down the pike. And then no new additional starters in 2025 unless how you speak about Igbuka, but they have Jalen McMillan, who I like. They have Trey Palmer, who's there as like a slot gadget guy. Sterling Shepard. And then like nothing is changing except the guy holding the play sheet. So it's interesting because it's weird to see it go from Canales to Cohn and get more productive. It can't theoretically get more productive in 2025. So if that downtick happens, does it bring you to a place where you're still sustainable at Dave Canales' level at, 10th, more so than kind of 18th, something like that. And so, yeah, that's, which also good for them. They sit in a pretty nice division where you're going to get 6 games against, 3 defenses that you should feast on, and you should be one of the best offenses in those games. So.
Absolutely. I mean, I talked about it. Again, you could talk about it for every single team. And of all divisions to cover in one episode, this is probably the division you can get away with talking about the quarterback for every single team when it comes to season outlook questions. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, so much of that offensive coordinator change is going to really show how much of it is Baker Mayfield, because I, too, am not much of a Baker Mayfield believer as much as, Ryan is. And if they continue to have that good season, you can probably get to a point and say, well, this is probably Baker that's doing the majority of it, versus if they kind of tick back down to where it was at, and you can say, well, maybe Liam and Cohen were the ones that were kind of the architect of this offense, and he was kind of just the beneficiary of it all. So it'll be really interesting to see what people's kind of thoughts on Baker is at the end of the season. So,
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, obviously my guy Emeka Egbuka making it, falling to them. It's a fun one.
Their season outlook question. Much like Ben has mentioned, I had to mention the quarterback, so I did 2. I cheated a little bit, but Michael Penix, what does a successful season look like? Is it cumulative on how many wins they get or how gaudy his stats are? They're built around running the football, Bijan Robinson, powerful offensive line, even sprinkling Algier in there. Like Algier before Bijan got there was a 1,000-yard rusher, so he's pretty talented in his own right. And they kind of use his arm strategically to create explosives because London and Mooney are good. And then, was Michael Penix overdrafted? Yes. Was it only behind the Browns in terms of bad asset management at quarterback? Because they paid Kirk Cousins $90 million guaranteed, $45 million annually. and they took a guy with the 8th overall pick who I had in the late second rounder. So it's bad asset management. Does any of it matter if he's good? No, it doesn't. They are actively paying a guy $40 million to sit the bench and not disrupt their new process, Michael Penix Jr. But they also traded their first round pick next year, so they expect him to win games. Just a very funny double entendre going on. They're pulling in two separate directions here for me. And then, secondly, last 3 drafts they've drafted 6 IDL/edge rushers. Can one of them be good, please? Braylon Trice tore his ACL last year. Rukuroro barely saw the field last year. Brandon Dorless, he was pretty solid in spot starts. Zach Harrison has already been there. He's projected as the starter. And then the guys they drafted, Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. They let the one guy who was kind of good for them, Grady Jarrett, walk out the door. And for the contract that the Bears gave him, I get why they let him walk out the door. Judon, like I mentioned, bust of a trade. They're now left with just a youthful room, desiring production. Can someone break out? They need it really bad. Does it happen? I don't know, but it defines their season in 2025 if they have it or they don't.
Exactly. I mean, everyone knew that was the need. Could they get any semblance of pass rush going? Everyone knew going into the draft that was going to be their plan. Given no one knew that they were going to trade their future first-round pick to trade up for James Pierce, but everyone knew that's what they needed. And again, that should absolutely be the season outlook question aside from the quarterback. Can any of these young guys put together a half-decent year for them to start thinking hey, maybe this paid off after all of this investment that we had, because we've invested a lot and it hasn't worked out thus far. So can James Pierce put it together? Can Jalen Walker put it together? 2 guys I wasn't necessarily high on, but again, it doesn't matter if they're good.
And then my season outlook question, it's the longest one I've had all season because I've been most excited. Does the offense maybe have some explosive juice? Because remember, the Saints scored 90 points in the first 2 weeks and only 2 other teams had done that in NFL history and they both won the Super Bowl. Remember that? That was fun. And then health kind of catapulted the 2024 Saints. Tyler Shuck, I would expect to be the starter, just based on the fact that from the way Kellen Moore talks about him, that he is the highest drafted quarterback by the Saints since one Archie Manning in the 1971 draft. And you remember that one? Classic, by the way. The
I remember
line,
that one.
The O-line welcomes another top prospect to this line. Kelvin Banks Jr. won the Outland. Great left tackle. It's a clear power profile with Fuanga. Even if I think it's a reach from my own board, because I had him in the low 20s. If he's a good player, he clearly fits the power profile of Fuanga. Who the hell cares? I have talked myself into the pick, obviously, because he's a Hook'em Horns, and it's a left tackle. Keep drafting the trenches. If that's my complaint, I shouldn't be watching the sport. Eric McCoy's finally healthy at center. Cesar Ruiz is a decent player. Whether the returns are now, he is a decent player. And then the one wrinkle is left guard, slated to be Trevor Penning. Dylan Raduns is going to compete with him in training camp when it starts next week, I believe. So that is the one part, but the most excitement for this team is the receivers. Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed showed a level of explosive ability in 2 games last year that echoed that they could be real engines of offenses for catching passes in the playoffs. A lot of people, not just me as a Saints fan, were thinking Saints playoffs last year after those first 2 weeks, and it was because of those 2 players and what they could create in their dynamic ability downfield. Bub Means is the only big-bodied receiver in this room, so I assume the Gabe Davis might be a Saint. I know there's buzz around that. Brandon Cooks came around. He's been around the block. Comes to back to New Orleans. Hopefully retires as a Saint. Cedric Wilson is a fun, dirty work guy. And then the running backs, Kamara, Kendre, Devin Neal, slate to be pretty explosive in the open field compared to what the last few years felt like with Jamal Williams handling the ball. He's a fun guy. He likes anime. He sucks at football. I'm really happy that these are the running backs now. And then, like, my last few, are the Saints going to be good? I lean no. And I think a lot of people lean no. Do I think they're going to be dumpster fire bad? No. Like, I really don't. And it doesn't hinder my excitement for what this youthful energy is bringing. This is probably the most excited I've been for a Saints team, Saints offense, since the Jameis year, frankly. Like, and that's what it does when you draft a guy with the 40th overall pick. Like, whether, like, Ryan could speak, like, the Justin Fields years were fun. Winning 3 games was fun because he was the quarterback. The Jalen Hurts years were fun for you because, like, it's just different. It's just different. So it's like, I could it be like fun in a rebuilding year? Absolutely, and that's why I'm really jazzed up for this team. So yeah, let's get.
I got a couple things here. First off, did you just use explosive in the same sentence with Devin Neal? I like Devin Neal. I was higher on Devin Neal than you were.
In open field. In the open field.
But no.
Catching passes?
My favorite stat, too, speaking on the draft, and I'll try to make this quick, is this is the first time since the release of the iPhone. Mind you, in September, the iPhone 17 is coming out. This is the first time since the release of the iPhone that the Saints kept every pick that they had and made the selection, which is absolutely just ridiculous. And then final to kind of my season outlook question. Aside from being, because it seems like I'm going to be much lower on the Saints. Aside from being Urban Meyer, is there really anything that Kellen Moore can do to make him lose his job in year one? Like, I really think right now the Saints are that bad that, like, Kellen Moore could go 0-17 and still probably keep his job as long as he's not kicking people and staying in college bars as the team is flying back. So, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll get into the season outlook question for me. What if corner is just a nightmare? Because it might be. The boundary corner room right now is Isaiah Rodgers and Jeff Okudah, both of whom were pretty much depth or third-string guys on their previous teams. The backups are 2023 third-round pick Mekhi Blackman, who I kind of liked. He tore his ACL in camp last season, so like he's hasn't played in a long time. Dwight McGlothern? He played 19 snaps on the defensive end for them last season, and he's CB4 right now. I think this team makes a vet corner move. They still have $25 million. They have a rookie quarterback, so it's easy to kind of allocate, $5-7 million to an actual corner who can play like with a pulse, and then get the rest of rollover for next year. But yeah, all the cards point to them getting another one, and maybe that front four is really, really good because they've spent a lot on that one. Jonathan Grenard, Van Ginkel just got another extension, as I mentioned, and then Dallas Turner they took in the first round last year. So who knows? That leads me right into my season outlook question. Can they get an edge too, man? Like this, I mean, they're
Smith.
Yeah, I mean their edge rushing tandem of Aiden Hutchinson and anybody else who is like fine would be an awesome duo just because that's how good Hutchinson is. But right now they have Davenport and Al-Qadim Muhammad, and Josh Paschal is on the injury report already. So yeah, it's interesting. I think they need to get someone with a pulse, and Zadarius Smith is the main guy for a mercenary deal. I think it's the easiest one, but we'll see how that goes. I also they had 37 total sacks as a team last year in 5 games with Hutchinson, and he left during the Cowboys game, by the way. They had 15, and he had 7.5 by himself. That was the pace he was on, and so they had 22 and 12 games, which is under 2. With him, they had 3 a game. So just having him on the field for hopefully, he can miss a few games, 14 to 15 games instead of 5 is, I mean, it's still going to help them tremendously along the trenches. So, yeah, I'm excited to see that. And then a little pseudo question of their offense. How much does it change? I kind of went on a tangent already about that, but how much does it change? I think their top end talent is still really, really good, so they're still going to be a really, really good offense, but maybe they're not third. Maybe Jared Goff isn't like any efficiency metric saying like, oh, I'm the second best quarterback or the first best quarterback. Maybe he's fifth, and maybe the total offense is like eighth. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, let's get into the schedule.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean,
my
you're making great points. I again take this with a grain of salt. It's training camp, whatever. But the rumor out of training camp is that it's taking a lot more time to get this offense established than what you would have thought. Now, who knows? It's still a month away from week 1, so pretty cool to say that now. But just saying, I mean, take that with a grain of salt. This offense and this defense, I anticipate to look a little bit different. However, this roster, man, I like this one just as much as I like the Vikings one, if not maybe a little bit better, just because they have more of a stable guy, I would say, at quarterback, just for right now, because who knows what JJ McCarthy is. But yeah, I'm excited to see what this team can do just because of the amount of changes with the staff on the sideline. Ben, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, it's the low-hanging fruit, but, like, how can this team bounce back from losing both of their coordinators? I mean, we saw it 2 years ago when both the Eagles coordinators got hired away in Gannon and Steichen, and the step back that they had taken as a team. I mean, the majority of that roster was still there, and again, they still managed to take a step back. And then I would like to echo back to that report that you had said about it being, I mean, not even rough, like rocky was the word that they used, that the transition to them was a rocky transition. So it's going to just be interesting to see how much of an impact that truly has on this team.
Their season outlook question: can the offense / the quarterback just be better than what last year was? Like, that's all I'm asking. Not asking for a lot. Much like the Patriots, this is a pretty 2024 draft pick centric. This is by any metric, Caleb Williams was bad after an offseason of expectation where it was like, remember the whole Get Up segment? Welcome to Get Up. Is this the best situation a number one pick has ever had? And then you had to talk about it for 5 minutes about how awesome it was, and you had to hype up 30-year-old Keenan Allen as an asset. That was a thing we had to do last year. And yeah, I think expectation on a rookie is never a business I want to certainly buy into fully. You could say oh, Matt, you have the Titans winning a lot of games. Aren't you doing the same thing? No, because I'm kind of just looking at the upside of the possibility more so than, the downside. If Cam Ward is a rookie, then yeah, he's a rookie. But also what he could do in their situation is much more sustainable, I believe, than what Caleb was walking into last year. I think we really spent a lot of time on what the receivers could be, and I think we really looked at Rome Odunze as more of a finished product than he actually is, where the Titans kind of just went full heads deep on veteran offensive linemen who can play. And I know Ben doesn't like Dan Moore, but they can play. The root of this question is, if you want, it's just like the Patriots question. It's the exact same. Can the quarterback be good? I mean, that's it. That's all I'm at. That's all you want to know out of the 2025 season is if the quarterback is good. And that doesn't matter if they're winning 6 games or winning 8 games or making a playoff. It's, can you puff your chest out and say, hey, we have the guy, and now we can push the chips in the middle of the table for the last 2 to 3 years of his rookie contract to really put some pressure on the NFC conference. We're going to see. And I think that's all it comes down to. Talk about your quarterback, Ryan. Talk about where your headspace is.
Listen, anybody that plays the position of quarterback and starts for my team, I will rally behind. It's something that you guys have seen, let's see, twice now, because at this point, we've made it through the Justin Fields years, and now we're into the Caleb Williams years on this podcast. It's crazy to say we've been doing it for that long, but, and before then, I mean, heck, Ben, I think you and I were friends way back when Mitch Trubisky was still the quarterback for the Bears.
And Nick Foles.
And Nick Foles and, all of that. So, I mean, Ben knows better than anybody as far as the things that I've been through and the people that I've gone to war for. So when it comes to this quarterback, it's no different. And to me, it really sucks to see the negative publicity this guy gets right now because of how much hype he got going into last season as this guy that's going to be the savior of the Bears. And, he's an absolute, like like a must-take prospect. Like, this is a guy you cannot miss on. It's never been so easy for the Bears to just push the button on. This is the guy that's the surefire number one pick, no matter who takes him, if it's the Commanders that trade up or who it is. I'm purely under the impression that if the Bears would have gotten Jaden Daniels instead of Caleb Williams and, Washington picked up Williams, I'm purely of the belief that the roles would have just switched. Caleb would have been just fine, and Jaden Daniels would have suffered, and everybody's saying, oh no, the sky's falling. It's just the Bears. Their Bears are doing Bears things. The cool thing about this offseason, and I think I noted it when the news had broken, is that they extended Ryan Poles, and when they signed Ben Johnson, they got him through 2029. So now they have both guys, and my biggest complaint over the last couple of years is that my quarterback, my GM, and my head coach are not linked up together. So we're on this never-ending carousel of morons that keep taking three of the most important positions in a franchise: the quarterback, the head coach, and the GM. So without all of them being on the same page, we cannot be a competent franchise. If this doesn't work out, I'm excited for what's next. But I entirely think that it's way too early to make the assumption that Caleb is not the guy. It is still time for, it's not even time for put up or shut up yet. It's time to see what happens in the first year of a head coach that's offensive minded, that has the skills of a play caller to work towards the quarterback's, skills. I'm excited to see what's next.
My season outlook question for them kind of was just a take. I just wanted to have a take with this team. Could this offense be like the best in football this year? That'd be pretty cool. Like, I think everything is lining up for this team to be pretty awesome on the offensive end. 2023, so this is since Jordan Love came in. By the way, Jordan Love only played 33 games. Like, that was kind of one of those things like, whoa. Like, it feels like he's been around forever. But since he came into the league and started games, 2023, 0.075 EPA per play last year, which was 5th. He was 8th in success rate, 45.1%. And then 2024, he actually got better in EPA per play, 0.081, but he was 8th, and the success rate was down 44.8%. Both years, they've been top 5 in explosive play rate, so that's rushes of 10-plus yards and passes of 20-plus yards. They have just depth everywhere, man. And it's mixed with the high-end talent now, dropping in Golden here. I don't expect anything out of Christian Watson. I think that's one where drafting Golden kind of tells you the writing on the wall with Christian Watson, who tore his ACL in that last game against Chicago. They have an offense, like a very balanced offense with Josh Jacobs, who had a pretty good year, but not like an amazing year last season. He could have been more explosive, but he converted touchdowns was the main thing. They have an offensive guru in Matt LaFleur. And I also think the quarterback could still get better. Like, I still think there is a level he could go up because, like I said, he's only played 33 games. So see if that happens. And you think about the top 3 offenses, Baltimore, who is their Lamar and friends, the Bills, who are kind of Josh Allen and friends, and then the Lions, who are Jared Goff, who's a pretty good but limited quarterback, and everybody else around him kind of brings him up. Doesn't that remind you of what the Packers could be? So, yeah, I think this is something I kind of want to just throw this one out there. Kind of tells you where I think they're going to go this year.
I don't like them.
That is lofty expectations for a team that does not have a solidified wide receiver 1, but I like where your head's at.
They took a guy in the first round, and Jaden Reed is awesome, dude.
Hey, not to mention,
Jaden Reed is awesome, but what did we say even when scouting Matthew Golden? that he probably isn't a wide receiver one, but a very good complementary wide receiver two. It just comes back like my concern is them not having that like elite alpha dog wide receiver one. But who
You know who
knows?
that reminds me of?
Matthew Golden could turn
Baltimore
into that.
Buffalo.
Yeah, well, and that's what I'm saying. So I mean, they could. It could happen, but
you mean two
really
teams with MVP candidates on their team? That's insane, dude. That's crazy. What could they be that? No, it's Jordan Love. Are we serious? Come on, dude.
Okay,
no,
you're not get I think you get blinded by the Jordan Love hate and by like the green and gold too much. First off, but my main concern with Matthew Golden is the number. Get this man a different jersey, please. There's no way he's gonna succeed in a number like that.
If you made it to the end, we love and appreciate you. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe so you can keep interacting and engaging with all our football content as the NFL season, like I said at the beginning, is just around the corner. Thank you. Appreciate it.